Morning, and I'm glad to be back with you. Thank you so much. I want to say a special thank you to Kanarim Gome for holding up while, we went to the garden to do a little bit of digging because, the season is here. The rains are here. So thank you very much, Kanarim Gome and Shamim Nawakoza, of course, for keeping our viewers updated with what's happening in and around the country. And here we are back for the Media Roundtable. It comes to you each and every Friday as journalists in the perspective have a view of what the stories that have made headlines, and there is just a lot. Today, like I did clearly say, we will be having the traders meeting the president over this IFRIS, Chidwadecha IFRIS, Umsolo Gwa IFRIS. All those are just, things overshadowing. It's actually just a taxing solution where Uganda Revenue Authority is able to track your e-receipts, your invoices. So for the people who have been hiding and not paying the rightful taxes, you say I sold or I supplied 100 million instead of 1 billion shillings that way. Uganda Revenue Authority is able to take you back. The traders have said this has continued to increase the cost of doing business. But they've also talked about many other issues. The trade committee says when this last came to them, they had advised and recommended that IFRIS be halted, Uganda Revenue Authority be able to engage with the traders, make them understand. Let's do a lot of benchmarking, which seems not to have happened. That is according to Honorable Francis Mwijuche, former Shadow Minister of Trade, actually, while he appeared on the Morning Breeze. They are meeting the president today. Then what? After that, will we be able to have an amicable solution? Because the traders said up until they meet the president, they will not open up the shops. But also this week, Parliament has gone ahead to pass some of the bills, the rationalization of agencies. Finally, we are starting to see the steps taking up, because in the last 5 years, this is a conversation that we've had for a very, very long time. Now, looking at some of the bills, Parliament resolved to transfer the Warehouse Receipt System Authority to the Ministry of Trade and Cooperatives. Now, they also, in one of the bills, resolved to have the Uganda National Meteorological Authority passed on to back into the national, the Ministry of Water and Environment. But there was still some haggling there. Some ministers, some members of parliament saying, well, they have specific roles which are not duplicated in the ministry. Can they have semi-autonomous bodies? Semi-autonomous authority. And some MPs were asking that what more have they done, or what difference has come through from when they were a department and when they turned into an authority. But also away from that, in the plenary session, which was chaired by the Speaker, the Right Honourable Anita Anitamong, on the 17th April, Parliament did pass a number of other related bills, including the Free Zones Amendment Bill 2024, the the Uganda Exports Promotions Board Act Repeal Bill 2024, the Wildlife Conservation Education Center Act Repeal Bill 2024, and Uganda Wildlife Amendment Bill 2024, amongst many others. Is there a cost-benefit analysis? Have we done enough conversation? Or is it another, some have called it a political card, to think about the continued conversation of the cost of public administration? Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce to you my terrific panel for this particular morning as we get to delve into these and many more other issues. Allow me get to Honorable Jonathan Ebwalu. Soroti is well represented here. A very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mildred, my brother Anderson, and my teacher. I want to thank you very much that you have invited me this morning, and we are going to share. Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure having you and sparing your time off your busy schedule to come through. Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, senior journalist, producer, media trainer now, yes, business person, all those titles can go with him. Good morning. He's squinting his eyes. I don't know which of them that he doubts, but good.
You are at my door with IFRIS. What kind of business am I doing? Good morning, Mildred, and thank you very much for inviting me to this discussion. Of course, it's always a pleasure being here on NBS.
Thank you very much. And of course, Mr. Richard Baguma, we said there is a difference between senior and veteran. A senior and veteran journalist, but this one is veteran in all, and he is also a media trainer, totally against drink driving. So issues of alcohol, yes, very much so, and issues of environmental conservation as well. A very good morning to you.
Mildred, it's nice to be here. My cohort of old boys of Ontario School said when I posted the poster, they said I must greet you and greet you publicly. So the cohort appreciates
Greetings to the old boys of Mutare as well. My regards to you.
Yes, good morning, our viewers. It's always a pleasure and very humbling to have them every other morning.
If you could just move your mic a little bit closer.
This one
yeah,
here.
Yeah.
Yes, when you are a veteran, sometimes those things go out of head. It's nice
Yeah.
to have Anderson, who fires questions to others every day, now facing the questions.
Okay.
And of course, my student and honorable, thank you. And then, of course, somebody who has just joined us, you are going to introduce next.
Blancham Singuzi definitely is the person I am going to be introducing right about now. Blanche, very good morning to you, and thank you for sparing time to be with us.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for inviting me, and good morning to our dear viewers.
Good morning to you all, gentlemen. And of course, we'll start off with one of the biggest or the most recent, the most current conversation, and that is the traders meet with the president, which is happening today. The traders closed shop and said up until they meet the president, they said they had met with the Uganda Revenue Authority, they had met with Ministry of Finance. There seemed to be no end to it, although the Ministry of Finance actually did release a letter. And if I could read it verbatim, the Ministry of Finance did clearly highlight the number of issues that were highlighted by the traders, and also came up with conclusions, which yesterday, while I was speaking to the CACIT chairperson, he said they were not true. For example, a recommendation or agreement number 4, which the Ministry of Finance came up with, was that it was agreed that traders shall immediately resume normal business as government concludes internal consultation. He said that was a lie. They hadn't agreed such a thing. He also said regarding the anti-competition traders practices by manufacturers, Ministry of Trade would handle, which the traders also still believe it has taken all the time, and they needed to seek the audience of the president. Let me start with Honorable Jonathan, because this is something that has come through to Parliament. The traders have brought in a petition. That's number one. I also did see the leader of opposition raising concerns with regard to the traders' ideas that haven't been addressed as yet. And yet, also last year, I think it was last year or early this year, when this was brought to the trade committee, the trade committee had asked that IFRIS be halted for a little bit of time. And this is the entry point for them, but many other things that they're complaining about.
First of all, I want to thank you very much, my sister Tuhaise. Number one, we have a total broken administration in the country. You look at everything, all institutions seem to be looking at one person, and that is the president. This matter came up in Parliament. The Committee of Trade made its recommendations. The Ministry of Finance has had interactions with the traders, but there seems to be no headway. Everyone is saying we are waiting to hear from the president. You see, that is where the problem begins. We need to empower institutions. We need to have ministers who can be able to take decisions and guide the president. Everything we are giving to the president. Opening a road, the president. Opening a borehole, everything, the president. So that means if the president is engaged, that means nothing can move on in this country, which is a very bad problem, a very big problem. So the first problem we have as a country is the broken administration, the broken system in the country. This matter came yesterday. I even raised this in Parliament yesterday. And I told the Minister of Finance that if this matter cannot be resolved by your docket, then the best thing would be you resign. Because we are waiting for the president.
But the president as well himself is the de facto Minister of Finance. So probably they are thinking, let's go to the rightful person, not to the delegated power person.
That aside, taxes, taxes, taxes. We would want to pay taxes. Like I would encourage anyone to pay taxes. All countries are sustained on taxes. But the big problem we have in our country, you can see when I talk about the broken system, a situation where 10 trillion shillings is stolen in Uganda per year. 10 trillion shillings is stolen in Uganda per year. And nobody cares. Nobody seems to be knowing if we had a proper system of administration. Let me tell you, some of these monies would be tracked. Now, the poor people, that is area number one. We pay money but the money is being stolen. It demoralizes the people who are paying this money in downtown, people who are paying this money in Kiseka, people who are paying this money in Chikubo. That is number one. Number two, we have seen situations where the poor people pay the money, but then government wakes up in the morning. You are giving money to Abubakar, 26 billion. You're giving money to Rocco. You're giving money to Simba. You're giving money to different pharmacies. Now, it's the poor people who are paying this money in the names of bailouts. We even ask government that, okay, you have been bailing people out using our money, taxpayers' money. Government cannot even account. They cannot say which people were given grants, which people were given loans. And those who took money as loans, were they paid? And what criteria was used for bailing out Anderson? What criteria was used for bailing out Ebualu and then not the other person? But then you see the poor people are paying money. So these are the problems that we are facing as a country. But very quickly, my view and my recommendation to government is to immediately suspend this IFRIS, because the traders have raised this. Immediately suspend the implementation of IFRIS.
But I thought we said we wanted technological advancements that could help us ease the way we collect our taxes so that people don't avoid and evade.
No, you just don't wake up in the morning and shock people. This came as a shock to the traders. You don't wake up in the morning and just shock people. We are going to introduce this and start implementing. My humble view to government is, one, suspend the implementation of this IFRIS and then have the full involvement of the traders. As a recommendation, number one. Now, number two, the traders have also raised a very important issue where we have the manufacturers, especially the foreign investors. These people, one, they come in here and act as distributors.
Yes.
Number two, they come in and act as wholesalers. Number three, they're acting as retailers.
Sure.
And then number four, they're even acting as hawkers. So this is, frustrating the local investors. These people should stop. If they're going to do distribution, stop there. If they're going to do the wholesaling, let them stop there. But these people are going up to the bedrooms. They're going up to the hawking on the streets. So I agree in totality with our people. Number three, the other issue that our people have raised, and which I fully support them, is that the imports. When you want to import your cloth, you have to pay between $3 to $3.5. That is per kilo.
Yes.
Per kilo. Per kilo. But then also, if it was uniform, we would say no problem. We can implement this because it's uniform. But the situation out there implementing, it is different from trader to trader.
Yeah.
That's where there's a problem. It is different from trader to trader. We have the high cost of doing business in the country, and really as government should come in and support the traders. These are people who are paying taxes. And let me tell you, you can see how the country is now paralyzed. Government has lost billions of shillings in terms of taxes in these 2-3 days of the shutdown. And I want to thank the traders. It seems our traders are beginning to organize, because this time government underestimated them. Government underrated the traders, but the traders organized themselves without any political influence, and they have caused a very big impact in the country. And I want to encourage them that, the president is going to meet them and tell them, oh, we are going to sort this, we are going to sort this, and then they pull out. As the URA will continue to impose these heavy taxes, to impose the heavy cost of business onto them.
Okay.
You can imagine a situation where our people downtown, you go to a bank, the cost of borrowing, the cost of lending is very high. You're going to a bank, and then you have to pay back this money with between 18 to 30%. This is very high for our poor people who are on the streets.
All right.
But I also support them that you continue with your strike. As members of parliament, as leaders, we feel you. The country is feeling you, and I feel your pain. I saw some interview, our traders were saying that we cannot continue paying money and then we are giving money to members of parliament to use. We are paying money and then we are funding members of parliament. So that can show you that the cost of the administration in the country is going back to our people and they're feeling. A trader feels that when I pay this money, they're going to give a member of parliament to buy his car. They're going to give a PS to do this. They're going to give so and so to do this.
And I'm left.
And I'm left behind. And we are the
Thank
ones
you.
who are paying.
Thank you, Honorable. I would like to hold you at that. I'm going to definitely be coming back to you. And you raised quite a number of the issues that the traders have actually raised as their concerns. Anderson, let me come to you. This whole idea of the threshold of taxation, for example, out of what Honorable has mentioned, the traders are saying, can you reduce the value-added tax threshold from 150 million, as it is, to about 1 billion shillings at least, and also from 18 to 16%, because we are already choking on the debts. And on the issues that Honorable raised of the manufacturers themselves coming into the business, they pay value-added tax once, and the traders are saying we're double taxed on the same.
Indians have swept our people in Soroti. We used to have Mzee Lasu, who was a powerful businessman in Soroti. We used to have Mzee Achol, who was a powerful businessman in Soroti. Now the Indians came to Soroti. They have swept away all our local
from
people.
From trading to, wholesaling to retailing. And this is what is happening in Chikobo, according to the traders. So do you think the meeting with the president will yield result?
First of all, you began by asking me about the VAT threshold. You know, all countries in the world are still struggling with the effects brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. The lockdown that happened, businesses struggling, even the governments themselves are struggling in terms of funding. That I think should have been the starting point for government when they were thinking about how they would help the businesses actually to sustain themselves. And I think it called for the revision of some of the taxes, including issues to do with VAT, by the traders simply telling you that they want the threshold increased to 1 billion to 150. It means that most of the businesses are not actually making that turnover of 150 million shillings annually. So there is a need actually to look at that particular issue so that they expand. And then we have those that are actually making too much profit to be able to pay that tax. But also there's a big debate about value addition tax. What exactly is it? It's something that also people do not understand. And who should actually be responsible for paying it or throughout the chain. When you hear the discussions, manufacturers are paying it. Now they want the traders to pay it, but at the end of the day, they tell you actually it is the consumer, you and I, who is buying from the business person, who is carrying this particular burden. The question is, as this burden continues to be pushed on us, how are we doing in terms of our incomes? Have our incomes increased? The answer is definitely no. Therefore, it's a wider tax policy issue that needs to be looked at from that context. I closely followed the discussion in Parliament, and I know clearly that it's the responsibility of Parliament to legislate, like the Speaker herself was saying. But then she asked a critical question and said, what can we do? And I would like to interest my brother, Honorable Balu, here, that when you go back to the House, kindly mobilize your members and even move a motion to have the amendments done. We are in a budget process and you're going to consider the tax bills. This is an opportunity for you, without even waiting for the president, to be able to listen to the voice of your voters who are out there and crying out. So at the end of the day, whether the president agrees with the traders or not, it will still go back to Parliament to be able to strike that balance, to make sure that the issues that the traders are complaining about are addressed. Then on the side of URA, there's a huge gap. URA says it has been carrying out sensitization. But from what the traders are saying, you can clearly see people do not understand. There are people who actually think that IFRIS is a tax in itself, yet it's just a platform through which taxes should be paid. And then on the other aspect of the cost, taking into account the background I've given you, businesses recovering, does it hurt when government actually gets money, buys computers, but they can be even desktops. It cannot even come through the trade facilitation budget. This is what other countries do. They have trade facilitation budgets to be able to help to boost trade. It does not hurt if they registered all these traders, for instance, in Kikubo, and provide them these smaller versions of desktops, computers, where you put that particular software, that particular vehicle called IFRIS, for them to be able to comply. Train them on those particular facility. Those computers can actually be fixed on a desk where they cannot be moved. That should be looked at from the angle of trade facilitation. Then lastly for me, the most important thing that I've seen with this particular strike is the fact that the voice of Ugandans is growing. You know, the Constitution gives us the responsibility of paying taxes as ordinary Ugandans. And most of us pay attention to that particular aspect. We try as much as possible to comply, we pay the taxes. By the end of the day, we don't ask the critical question, what are these taxes doing for us?
Yeah.
Because for me, that's the social contract. When you have a government, you pay them taxes, they should be able to provide you services. For instance, when you go to hospitals, do you get the services that you need? When you're moving around in Kampala, do you get, are you moving on good roads? Are your children in school? Are they paying extra charges, or all this is free? That is the motivation to a taxpayer. And this is what happens in countries abroad. You can go in a supermarket, you can go to a smallest point, whatever you're buying is receipted electronically. But there is motivation. People know that at the end of the day, they are going to get services from the people. So for me, it's an encouragement to all Ugandans. We pay taxes every day. Every day, whatever you buy. And you know the beauty of indirect tax.
Okay.
You don't feel the pain immediately. But whatever you're buying from a shop, whatever you are spending on, you are paying taxes.
You're paying taxes for
But
it, yes.
are those taxes giving you value? And so in my next life, God willing, one of the things I want to do is actually to engage in civic education, to educate Ugandans about their responsibility as citizens beyond paying taxes, beyond electing leaders. How can you hold them accountable? How can you actually tell them that, look, I am the boss.
And
I
not
am
you.
the boss. I pay the taxes that buy the vehicles that you're moving in. I pay the taxes
Yeah.
that buy your meals.
Okay.
So you must listen to me instead of you backing at me and creating an impression that now we have 250 billion, we are able to give you 3 billion. I mean, this is my money as a taxpayer.
Leader number one said, I am not your servant. I hope you do remember.
Well, I think
That's a particular statement.
that was very unfortunate.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those darkest pages in the books of history that will be written about him. When you stand publicly where people are listening to you and it snaps and you start telling people, I'm not your servant. You are their servant. That's why you go to beg for their vote. Some of these leaders even take their families, they kneel on platforms and tell them, please vote for me. But the paradox in Africa is that when leaders have been elected, they suddenly become the bosses. You start begging them, sir, our road in this and this place, we need some money.
Thank you.
That particular paradox
I
needs
hear
to
your
change
pain. I hear
by
your
having
pain.
an empowered citizen.
I hear your pain. Richard, there is a twist, and there seems to be a cat and mouse chess here. You are saying that, look here, it is just a solution, but that is going to bring about the transparency for us to be able to know how much do you pay. You don't say I sold 100 million when you sold 10 million, and then we will tax you unfairly. Or the reverse, so you say I sold 10 when it's 100, and then you just don't want to pay. But also the traders are saying there is a cost of being transparent. Then every tax is going to come to me, and I am going to be overburdened at that point in time. Where can we strike the balance?
The first thing is for Anderson to prepare for a drone. He says his next life is getting off the microphone and coming this way to start telling people not
Civic.
telling people not to vote others. Because when you start telling them, you are telling them not to vote others. Prepare for a drone, Kenneth.
Unfortunately, that's the situation where you envisage things to end. But
Yeah.
what I'm simply saying.
No, I got you, Kenneth. I'm with you. You
do
see,
agree with me?
you see. No, I don't agree with you that you go into a drone. Just don't.
I didn't say I want to go into a
But you
drone.
see, Kenneth and
I
colleagues.
hope you'll not be the one picking.
No. You see, this to see this particular action, withdrawal of labor. This is withdrawal of labor by a certain group. To see it as simply an economic issue, I think is to mischaracterize it. This is not, in my view, an economic issue. These people are talking about the impunity that has characterized the governance, increasingly, particularly as the years go by. They are, for example, these people are really saying, because he said, what is beneath the standoff really? These people are saying, we have been abused so consistently, we are just tired. Yes, that's it. It's just an expression of exhaustion, of being abused. They have been paying some taxes. They have been. Let me tell you one of the things that the traders keep saying, and we really don't talk about. They have been saying, you get misassessed. You get over-assessed. They have been saying this. I one time said here that I had looked at 18 different files of people who have been misassessed. When this information is put into the tax system, then even if you come and say, oh, we understand we mistaxed you, it does not get deleted out of the system. So it becomes people's gardens. So the people from VAT come and threaten you, you give them something. Then the ones from, income tax come, threaten you, you give them something. This is an expression of exhaustion. The second thing, the expression of exhaustion, I think this is about, is the wanton and open and flagrant abuse of the money that they give. Yeah, it doesn't matter which sector you go to. It doesn't matter the level of governance. It is wanton. It is so arrogant, the way that these resources are being used, and by a relatively small group of people. The other thing that the traders say, that the same group that is arrogant, the same group that is very profligate, is the same group that claims to do business, but is protected from paying taxes.
Yeah.
They say these things. We seem not to be so beneath. It's not just that, oh, it's IFRIS. It's a tipping point for them. Yeah, that if you remember when VAT was introduced, there was a strike. It's many years. I don't know, 20. I don't remember, but I remember because I was, I think, still very much more active in journalism than now, and there was protestation. Things were explained, and they went. So, and then the thing that my student was saying, the honorable here, that this thing can only be resolved at one place. And we know. All the others can talk all the English they want. This thing will only be resolved. But even when they go to meet my president, he will be looking at them. Who do I co-opt? Who do I coerce? Who do I buy out? This is the method. And this is what is also going to be happening. So you start seeing them quarreling with each other after this visit. You just wait. You will see we'll come be here to start talking. The other one was given a sack of something. This one was given a kavera of the other. And it will. But the issues, the underlying issues, the beneath issues do not go away. Why does URA have a crisis too? Because the political leaders, who are the real leaders, do two things. One, they put unrealistic targets on it. I have been saying here that the targets for URA are unsupported. There is no science. It is the need that we have to spend, and we say, okay, now our budget, we need to spend 58 trillion, so they should bring 29 trillion. Last year, we asked them for 23 trillion, which they didn't get. We want them to produce 29 now. And the second thing, and this is to you, Honorable, the specifics in the bills, the tax bills, you don't read them. No. If you read them, for example, every year, the tax bills that are brought to you keep taking away any appeal process that the taxpayers would have. And they brought how many? 5 bills the other day to you.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to pass them in, 5 days or 7 days. How are you going to read and understand these bills and pass them? And then the last one for me is the recruitment to the tax body and the empowerment of the taxpayer. I don't know if you have dealt with them. The younger group now. They are those ones who are untouchable. They tell you, if that one is the one who brought the assessment, we will not do. So this young man or young man enters your office, their client enters the business, their clients, IFRIS, because they are untouchable in URA. The other thing that is there is that we have this increased in all government places, by the way. I interact with government places. Lunchtime fellowship, this fundamentalist Pentecostalism. And so if you agree with the taxpayer that they will mistype, then they say you are a thief. After all, you don't belong to lunchtime fellowship or something. These things must be tackled. They are beneath these issues. We don't talk about them when we come here. Yeah. But this is what we must deal with these things. They erode and anger the people in this country.
All right, thank you very much. You raised very fundamental questions. Blanche, I know many of us have dealt with, in business, one or two ways, whether it's retail or you want to do a side hustle here and there. And for every person, the biggest conversation is always about the cost of transparency. And that is what also the traders are saying. It's not just IFRIS. There's so many other issues that they're raising up that they say, we are just tired. We've talked and we just haven't received any kind of remedy.
I would perhaps like to sympathize with URA because the job of collecting tax is extremely very hard. No one wants to pay tax, but URA must collect tax for this government to survive. What URA is trying to do is something that is very hard. Imagine someone, it's like coming to your bedroom and saying, I want to put there a camera. And I be watching everything that you are doing in your bedroom. This is what URA is telling traders downtown. And it's also telling them, you must buy this camera. And you put it there.
And you must put it there.
You must put it there, and I must be watching this camera. That's what URA is saying.
In
and
fact, it is even saying you must film yourself.
Yeah,
also.
You must film yourself.
And stream online.
And stream live. So who would accept this? Of course, no one. So there are lots of things that URA needs to do better. And actually, URA has been doing better. In the last financial year, it hit its tax target. It corrected like 100.28. It was supposed to correct 25 trillion and a few billions. Then it hit that target. So URA is doing a bit better, apart from the brute force of the current Commissioner General. He has also turned URA into an army garrison.
How do you mean?
There are lots of soldiers at URA, too many. He came with too many soldiers than the previous Commissioner Generals. So
and the soldiers are protecting him? The soldiers are implementing tax collection? How exactly is that coming through?
They are like, the soldiers at URA are like a spy network. So you need to spy on who you're employing to collect taxes for you, because you know that these people are also likely to be corrupt. So,
sure. And would that be bad? Because
the soldiers are not corrupt. The soldiers are not corrupt.
Already Richard is talking to you about the untouchables. He's talking to you about, remember back in the day where some of them would collect and not even remit. So spy on them and understand it.
No, but once you talk to people at URA and you get to understand the brute force that these people are using, he needs to stem it down a bit. That's something that he should do. He's doing where he has correct, as I said, he has hit the tax target. Now they're asking him, you must correct 29 trillion. He has to find ways of effecting IFRIS. But to come back to IFRIS is that one of the things that URA needs to think about in the medium and the long term is the issue of setting up a department that deals with perhaps behavior science and psychology. Because I think Kenneth talked about sensitization. You are not sensitizing people. But if you want to introduce IFRIS today, URA should have developed this system. Like in 2019 or 2018, we know that they developed it in 2022, then it was there. So you start by trying to engage people in this system, not taxing them. You wait for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You see how people are trying to use it or dodge it before then you come up with an enforcement. This system is being used in countries like Kenya. It's even used in across the border in Rwanda, which is a smaller economy than ours, and it's working effectively. And that has been to do with the duration with which you start enforcing or implementing this system, because you know that taxation is very hard. You need to take a long time before coming to the final option of enforcement, because URA has come and said there are people who have already been using it. That's what URA has been saying. But you cannot run downtown and you tell people, I have introduced this system, you must go on it, whether you want or not.
But you're making, the person you're telling is making business.
Yeah.
They're making the money.
The person is making money. Even if this person is making 300 million or 500 million in profits, this person is going to oppose you. As I said, taxation, there is no place where people pay tax freely. You have to first find ways of enticing this person and say you pay tax, then he refuses, then you say, I'm going to give you 2 years, you must pay tax, or you must get onto this system. The person refuses. It's not that all of them are going to refuse. A few will come onto the system. That will help you. If URA had introduced this system downtown like 4 years ago, perhaps 10% of the traders would burn it, and then it would have learned a lot from that 10%. Are they actually filing the right returns? Are they cheating you? Where are they cheating you? So in that period, you learn how to adjust and then introduce this system effectively and force people to get on it. So the challenge that Museveni has today is whether to suspend this IFRIS or tell URA or bring thousands of soldiers downtown and say,
and they start doing business.
And they start doing business of enforcing this tax. He also has a hard decision to make.
Okay.
You have no money, you need money. You have a system that people are opposing.
You need the vote later.
You have no option. So Museveni has a hard choice to make. Let's wait and see what he's going to say.
And yes, we will definitely be here to wait and see what comes out of that meeting, and we'll be giving you all the updates. But for now, we want to take a very short commercial break and return with a little bit more conversation, broadening it to what are the alternatives? Where else can we tax? Yesterday, Parliament was as well having conversations with regard to tax alternatives, and cows came into that conversation. I don't know how Richard would be happy about that.
Yeah, we should be taxed.
But
Why
let's
not?
get back. All right, welcome back, and thank you so much for keeping it NBS Television. And you're still watching The Morning Breeze, your most authoritative morning current affairs show. And this being a Friday, it is the Media Round Table, as we bring you conversations with regard to the stories that have made headlines, and of course, looking at what the journalist's perspective is on those particular stories. As we went out, we were still looking at the traders meeting with the president with regard to a myriad of issues that they've talked about, IFRIS inclusive, competition, and so many other aspects, and what will be coming through. Your guess could be as good as mine. We'll be able to wait. But also in that context then brings in the conversation about how then best can we be able to fund our budget, because our tax to GDP ratio still remains below par, around 14% or less than that. We are seeking to increase it as we get to realize the mid-rural income status, or whatever one would like to call it. Want to have a much bigger economy, but the cost of public administration remains high. And where else can we look at taxing? Because the complaints have always been that we do a little bit more tax deepening than tax widening. So if Mildred has to pay 10 taxes, we will add another 11th and 12th tax to her, as opposed to saying let's extend our tax to another person as well. Honorable Jonathan, yesterday you were discussing tax alternatives. What other areas could we be able to tax? What comes to your mind when we talk about the issue of taxation, and where else we can be able to look?
First of all, like we said, even where we are now, like my brother said, when I pay my taxes, I should go to Soroti Hospital and get drugs. When I pay taxes, I should go to school and get affordable education. When I pay my taxes, there should be no potholes in Kampala. When I pay my taxes, I should know where my taxes are going, how my taxes are being used. That is the bottom line. Otherwise, where we are now, whether government increases more sources of revenue or not, where we are now as a country, we could even survive without loans. The money we collect in Uganda is sufficient. The problem is, like we said, how our money is being spent. You see, I told you here in the beginning of this show, where 10 trillion shillings is stolen in our country per year. A situation where to maintain, the cost of maintaining one family is over 500 billion to maintain one family. That is the president and his people. We have a big parliament. And I've always said this, we need to get a president. Doesn't matter whether he's educated or not, as long as he has his senior six, come to Uganda, take radical decisions, cut down our parliament. Let me tell you, our parliament is so huge. If we cut our parliament by a half, we'll be able to save money. I don't mind Soroti City, where you have one woman MP and you have one male MP. It doesn't matter who will win, but we'll have reduced on the number of members of parliament. We are 529. Even if you're going to give each member of parliament 1 minute to only introduce himself, you need 10 hours to finish all the members of parliament. We have members of parliament who even don't have time to speak. We are very many. You don't have time to put your issues. If you're going to take 5 minutes to speak, and you spread the 5 minutes to all the 529 members of parliament, let me tell you, you need about 5 days to complete that. So first of all, government should work. Stop creating more administrative units. Cut down the parliament. We are too big. To go to State House, there are 996 employees in State House, some of whom I even do not know what they are doing. Cut down on the number of employees in that place. You'll save money that will be put back into our economy. You have our presidential advisors now, as we speak. There are 139 presidential advisors. Unfortunately, they are advised by the president. They don't advise the president. But then they are there getting money. This money, if we cut on these people, you need to get only one presidential advisor in charge of agriculture, get one presidential advisor in charge of defense, get one presidential advisor in charge of media, get one presidential advisor in charge of... Now we have presidential advisor in charge of Rukunjiri, you have a presidential advisor in charge of Soroti, you have a presidential advisor in charge of Jigezi, presidential advisor in charge of bananas, presidential advisor in charge of coffee. Let me tell you, we have duplication in government, and then I will be telling you now when we go to the other side of RAPEX. I will tell you when we get to the second phase. So even in the situation where we are, if we use our money well, if we use our money with the discipline, the money we collect in Uganda will be able to sustain our economy. Okay. Now you want to go and tax land. There's a new one that they bring on land. You want to go and tax land. I buy, first of all, when I go and buy my land, there is money I have to pay. I have to give money to LOCs. I have to, if I sell my land at 10 million shillings, 500,000 government has to take as a 5%. So all these sources of taxation is going to go down on the last person, and that's the person who is already very poor, and that's the person you want to tax. All right. I want to tell you that the cost of operations in the country is very high. So for you, the biggest aspect is let's reduce the cost of public administration. I agree with you. I agree with you, because our people are already taxed. They are taxed. You go and buy sugar in the supermarket, everything. You're taxed. You go and buy soap, you are taxed. You go and buy a needle, you're taxed. You go and buy what, you're taxed. You go and buy everything, you are taxed. So again, you want to tax them what? All so right. My humble view is that a government needs to take a radical decision, cut down on the cost of administration. This money you put back to the economy. Blanche, I want to come back to you as well. Which areas could we be looking at in this case in point of where we can get the extra taxes? Because what is very sure is that government needs the money, but the areas where to get it from are really minimal.
Thank you. I first of all want to urge Jonathan, if he believes that we need to cut the cost of administration. He said the parliament can be reduced. Yeah, he should resign today and say, for the sake of Ugandans, for the sake of the money that I have been taking, and I'm not making a contribution to bettering Uganda, He said I should say I have failed. Let me resign and go back to Soroti.
Then we will hold a by-election.
Yeah,
and
we
there
will
will be
hold a
another
by-election.
person.
But we will have a by-election, but the nation will hold Jonathan in high regard and say, this is the gentleman who said, I must take an action.
So what
Beyond
problem
speaking.
does that solve?
So he should.
Even if I'm not there, you're electing another person.
Yes,
You have
yeah.
not solved the problem.
Yeah, another person will come, but when I meet you here on the round table, you'll be speaking and say, me, I resign because I felt I was a burden to Ugandans by taking their money. So those are some of the small actions that we need
Okay.
so that we can progress beyond speaking, especially for us who are not in elective positions. So back to the question of taxes.
Where else?
Where else? We are still a small country. Our economy is still small, and when you're a small economy, you always find challenges that URA is facing. To increase your tax threshold by 1 trillion, you'll be scratching your head and saying, "Oh my God, where can I find this kind of tax?" And sometimes before, I think in the mid 2000s, when was the tax that was being paid by our fathers? When was it removed?
26.
Yeah.
2006.
Yeah.
Graduated tax.
Graduated.
Graduated
tax.
tax, yes.
So when government moved from graduated tax and then started introducing all these kinds of indirect taxes, then finding that it's hitting an end point, you cannot find more ways of taxing people. So URA needs to get out of Kampala first of all. Go to villages and look at, for instance, taxing agriculture.
When people are doing hand-to-mouth, people are doing subsistence agriculture, they're not being able to get the money. The people the president is targeting through PDM, they're the ones you want URA to go and tax.
Okay, so I'm saying that
Tax
when-
agriculture.
no.
Let him conclude.
no, when you get out of Kampala,
Uh-huh.
for instance, you go to Chisozi, you'll find that Museveni had their square miles of farms, and he has thousands of cows in those farms. Can we
Okay.
tax Museveni's cows, if possible? And
So are we going to be selective that we'll go and tax President
No, no,
Museveni's
no, no,
cows,
no.
and you leave my 2 cows in the backyard because that's all I have?
I'm using president as an example because he's not a poor
Maybe
man.
let me just
No.
help you.
Maybe I'll let him
Let me
conclude, and then you will
Drive his
capture it.
point.
Yeah.
I'm using the president as an example because
Yeah.
his wealth is not in Kampala. There are many people whose wealth is not in Kampala. You
True.
are not going to find that the president has a shop. Yeah. So if part of his milk stays in Gomba and Chirhura, if 10% of that milk, he sells that milk in Chirhura and Gomba, we are not going to find ways of taxing the president. But if his milk reaches Kampala and it gets processed and exported, we are going to get that tax because he entered the tax system at a certain level. So if there is a person doing a 200 million business in places where URA is not present, can it reach there? As it collects taxes among traders in Kampala, it should also be collecting taxes among people who are within the tax threshold beyond the metropolitan Kampala. This is not an easy thing for URA to do, but it should look beyond Kampala. It should think about all the possible avenues of finding tax.
To
Okay.
tax cows.
I hope capacity will not be a conversation that URA would bring in. Kenneth, who do we tax? Where do we tax? What do we tax more? Because we need the money.
First of all,
I'll respond to Blas.
when you look at the tax measures, there are avenues through which people are exempted. So for starters, let's end these exemptions. And there should be a criteria. We should be able to conclude clearly on who should not be allowed to pay taxes or what kind of goods should not be paying taxes.
I thought Parliament did pass that clearly and
Actually,
pass the threshold.
actually, it is at the mercy of the Minister of Finance to decide.
Parliament set out guidelines on who.
They never adhere. You hear even Parliament asking questions to see the list of people who have been exempted, and they are not forthcoming. So we need to get into there. There is also issue of tax holidays. People who are not paying taxes, they have been granted tax holidays for 10 years, 20 years, and they have already broken even. But they are not paying taxes. They still do not pay taxes. But you'll be surprised that they contribute handsomely to some people's political campaigns. And you wonder why that money should not be going into the tax areas when we actually need the money. But also, everyone should be able to pay taxes, especially even our leaders. When you go to foreign countries, the ones actually we look up to, you cannot be a leader worth the name when you are not tax compliant. One of the things actually they look into your background as you are aspiring to go into office is whether you are adhering with taxes. You saw what has been causing Donald Trump problems. Here in Uganda, we have people who do not pay taxes. And I would like to ask the Honorable Obalu here, when you go back to the house, tell your colleagues that you are being unfair to Ugandans. Your emolument should be taxed. We shouldn't have you getting all this good pay. You are among the Ugandans who get better pay. You walk around, you are not paying taxes. Then you have ordinary Ugandans who are earning the salary, which is not commensurate with the state of affairs in the economy. You are actually taxing them. And then after taxing them, you are paid well, you are facilitated, you have cars and all these kind of things. It's unthinkable that we have people in this country who are in that top class. People who are supposed to show others what to do, the leaders, and they are not paying taxes. And of course, this brings in what my colleague Blanche was talking about, taxing agriculture. Well, we have had President Yoweri Museveni from time to time talking about how the volume of milk has grown, how he sells his cows and beef. He does not waste time with people who are sleeping around working for only the stomach. How much taxes are people who are involved in commercial agriculture actually paying? I mean, even when we were during COVID-19, one of the things that remained afloat was the agriculture sector because they were feeding millions and millions of people. How come they are not paying? We hear of milk coolers in Western Uganda. We hear of big farms in different parts of this country. Are people actually paying? We know people who are growing, who have big farms of oranges in Eastern Uganda. We have seen them confessing openly on TV how they are the genuine farmers of oranges and fruits in Eastern Uganda. Are they paying taxes? Is everybody actually paying taxes? So we need to look at some of those issues and deal with them. But also now, after getting this money, are we using this money properly to actually
that's the most important.
generate growth in the economy so that the tax base can actually expand? What are we doing? We are spending in things that are very funny. We have just been having a debate about responsible funding, and then we read from the press that Parliament has increased its share of money to be spent on trips, allowances, 124 billion. That's what we are seeing. We are just been discussing how Parliament is spending its money. Are we having responsible leaders? Do these leaders even have the moral authority to sit in the house there and decide what kind of taxes Ugandans should actually pay? I think they don't. So we need to have a holistic discussion as we go forward so that the burden of taxation is not passed on the small private sector that is struggling to get money for investment, that is struggling to pay salaries to Ugandans, so that everybody has the fair share of their responsibility in terms of paying taxes. If you're not leading by example, it's going to be very hard for you to convince others to actually adhere. And also, the government has a duty to also deal with the challenge of a lack of trust. People do not trust it because of the way the money is actually being spent. So we need to deal with corruption, save the 10 trillion shillings that Honorable talked about that is being stolen. We need to rationalize. Good enough, we are going to have a discussion about rationalization. And this rationalization, for me, I think, has been put at a certain limited level. I think there are areas where we need to scale up in order to save more money so that the ordinary Ugandan does not carry this huge burden of paying taxes.
All right, thank you very much. And to Richard, do we tax the cows? Because I should I think you have a few cows in the backyard. And what more? And I know Honorable was actually totally in disagreement when Kenneth said some of those big farmers in Soroti should be able to pay. But no, I will be coming to you. Let me first give Richard. I know
What's
you're
the problem?
angry. So what's the problem?
You are making
That's a
incomes. Are
commercial
you not
farmer.
making income?
Yeah, sure.
this-
But no, Richard first.
Yeah, okay.
These people are doing
So
Kampala.
two things.
How can we fail? How can we?
Richard's time.
Mildred.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny that we are not taxing what we call the backbone of our economy?
Yeah.
If it is the backbone of our
Be-
economy,
because-
it means
because
it's where we
68%
generate.
of the people
It's where
are
we
in-
generate most of our money.
Because
Therefore, we
most
should
of the
tax
people are
there.
in consumptive agriculture.
Okay, so
There are those who are in commercial agriculture.
Okay.
They
Yeah.
should be able to pay their share fair
Okay,
tax.
we tax those in commercial. Richard,
No.
over to you. Where are the alternatives of
No,
our
first-
taxation?
First of all, it is not entirely true that the people who are in commercial agriculture are not paying some taxes. It's not entirely true. But maybe it needs to be improved, strengthened, increased. Yeah. But there are two things that we also must accept. That from time immemorial, human beings will not want to pay tax, generally.
I
But
think
also-
I think our senior colleague needs to help us to understand what kind of taxes those people are paying already, so that we do not look at them as people who are not paying taxes.
Of course,
You-
when you're exporting, when you're
No,
selling,
when I came here,
Mm.
I said it's nice to have Kenneth on this side of answering questions because he's used to shooting questions. Even now, he has taken over from
asking you
Mildred. He's still asking. You appreciate your position now. You are.
part of the powers.
Yeah. So you see, human beings generally over generations will resist paying taxes. But also the people who hold power, the leaders, will try to exact some contribution from human beings. Many times it would be in kind. In the old times it would be in kind, labor or things, and you come and do that. So this debate and contest will continue without leave us. The second thing is that there are always increasing demands. If URA hits its target this year, it will have a higher target next year. No question about it. So it's also an unending target. It's not going to end. Even the rich countries, by the way, it's also another, I think, kind of information to say the rich countries do not have deficits, that they cover their budgets fully. They don't. They have huge deficits. So also public management in many places, even the ones which are purported to be rich, don't generally meet their targets. But the debate, you see, for me is the questions that people are asking, and that's why I was saying you'd have resolved them by tear gas or by buttons, but you can't go and tear gas padlocks. It becomes very difficult, and so the solutions start becoming more dialogic. But it's also a continuum of things. If we don't look at legislation for taxation, the legislation is totally unfair. The legislative regime and policy regime is very unfair. The questions, for example, that we are asking is agriculture or the people who are getting, because you see, we are talking about threshold for VAT. You can have a threshold for agricultural things. It means that 80% of the people in agriculture will actually not pay taxes because they are really struggling. They are really struggling. But there is a group of people who are in farming, particularly the elite, who are the ones who make policy, who do not make policy to tax themselves. So the other human behavior of not wanting. If you look at leaders, you find that the kings and the queens' properties were the ones not being taxed. You'll find that however rich or incomes a religious institution is making, among the biggest owners of real estate and land and things, they don't want to pay tax.
The men are God.
Yeah, and including the older traditional religions. Talk about taxing them and you have a crisis. So human beings, even when they preach, I don't know, whatever they are preaching, morality and everything and fairness, and they don't want to pay. So that's a challenge.
Maybe by the time I give my offertory, by the time I give my tithe, it's already taxed, and therefore, when they tax it in church again, it will be doubted.
No, but if we say if you are getting a certain level of income, you should pay tax. Why is it you, the religious institution, not pay?
Okay.
You are above this threshold. So there will be resisting. For me, the things to say is we must agree that our tax to GDP ratio is low. With better tax administration, first and foremost, starting with tax policy and legislation, and then administration, we certainly can reach the threshold that we are looking for. But the quarrels will remain because of the wanton looting and impunity that we do. That will not go away. So that's why I'm saying that the quarrel really is not necessarily about, it's this impunity that for you, you decide that I'm introducing this system because the impunity managers have set for you a threshold. You must bring this and we spend it. The way this is being spent is angering people, the ones who give you the money. And then you go to them to enforce. You find an angry group of people. They don't receive your message. And so there are areas now that are within the tax regime, and we need to improve administration.
Okay.
That's for sure. But the most important for me, Mildred, is the way we really abuse the money.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And there are many other ideas you could as well be able to share with us. Where do you think, which are the avenues that we could be able to tax to get more and more money for Uganda to fund our budget? But I hear out, I think all the panelists, as they said, it's not just about receiving the money. What does the money do? Do my taxes work? Those are the key questions that need to be coming out. Let's take a very short commercial break. When we do return, one of the other aspects that has been talked about as reducing the cost of public administration is the rationalization of government agencies. Will that help? Let's get back. The conversation never stops, and my panel has continued agreeing and disagreeing on what particular places should be taxed and who should be taxed at the end of the day. That's why I want you to weigh in on the conversation as well. Where do you think are the alternatives? Go to our socials at NBS TV on X, NBS Television on Facebook, and XBDA Services on YouTube. You can get me at Mildred Tuhaise across all my social media platforms. There is no agreement on where to tax in this particular day on the panel, but in one of the areas that has been discussed by Parliament over the time is the cost of public administration, the duplication of work in government agencies and authorities, duplication of work that should be in the ministries. And on the 17th, Parliament did pass a number of these bills. As I did mention them earlier, we did have the Warehouse Receipting System Amendment Bill 2024, the Free Zones Amendment Bill 24, the Uganda Exports Promotion Board Act Repeal Bill 2024, Uganda Wildlife Conservation Education Center, which was taking back that to the Ministry of Tourism, Wildlife and Antiquities. And additionally, we were having the Uganda National Meteorological Authority Amendment Bill, which was taking back UNMA to the Ministry of Water and Environment, amongst many others. And I'll still start off with you, Honorable. The reason I am starting with you all the time is because most of these issues are in Parliament.
Yeah.
Do we have value for money in this rationalization, or is just another political tool?
One, rationalization or RAPEX. It involves one, merger. Two, it involves mainstreaming. Merger combined. Two, the other one, mainstream, means that you remove, say for instance, UNRA or Uganda Road Fund. I'm going to talk specifically about those two committees. That's where I sit. I sit on the Committee of Fiscal Infrastructure, and we supervise UNRA and Uganda Road Fund. So get UNRA and then Uganda Road Fund, put them back as departments in the Ministry of Works. That is number two. Number three is to wind up. Means that you have achieved the purpose for which that agency was created, and now you have gained. So now you're closing. So merger, mainstreaming, and winding up. That is the whole thing that the ministry, that the executive is pushing. Now, there is no study whatsoever that the ministers are coming with to show that when we rationalize, we are going to save money. There is a lot of pain that we are seeing up to now. And I want to start with the Rural Electrification Agency. We have asked government that before you talk about rationalization, first tell us how you are going to manage the transition from here to here. Government is not telling us how they are going to effectively manage the transition. We saw what happened with the Rural Electrification Agency, REA. A number of people, government woke up in the morning, a number of people were fired. The project was in its implementation. We have the wires hanging everywhere. We have the poles put everywhere in the country, and there is nobody who's making follow-up. It is now 2 to 3 years. We put in a lot of money, and that project has stalled. So we are saying, government, before you do anything, first show us how you are going to manage transition from now disbanding this organization or taking it to the ministry. How are you going to manage the transition? We also are critiquing the bureaucracy in these ministries. You see now, UNRWA, as it is now, UNRWA gets funding. People in some areas even know UNRWA as Minister of Works. And even if there is any merging, to me I would even want that you take Minister of Works and put it to UNRWA. UNRWA has done a commendable job in the country. The only problem is that they have not got the sufficient funding. But UNRWA has done an excellent job. As I speak to you now,
they can't still do that job under Ministry of Works?
Under Ministry of Works, you're going to have a lot of bureaucracy, I'm telling you. You're going to have a lot of bureaucracy. Government has not told us how are you going to pay these people, the people that you're going to because one, they're saying they're going to absorb the people. If you're going to be removed from URA, we're going to create a department in the Ministry of Works. They're going to mainstream you there. So there will be a department in the Ministry of Works. You are not telling us the people that you're not going to absorb, how are you going to pay them? We saw a situation with Omeme.
Are their contracts still running? Because then that's also another issue to look at.
Exactly. There are those whose contracts are still running. The other day we asked the Minister of Public Service, the Honorable Muruli Mukasa, appeared, and they say that, oh, we have put aside 13 billion shillings to take care of those people who have the running contracts, to take care of those people who are going to be removed, who are not going to be absorbed. But we are asking government that, okay, no problem. You want to merge or to take the ministry, UNRWA, back to the ministry. Can you tell us how much money that you're going to save? How much money are you going to save? How much money are you going to save? The minister told us that we are looking at, we are going to come back to you to tell you how much money we are going to save.
Okay.
It is not clear.
So you think
the minister is saying that the people that we are going to pay, we are going to come back to you to ask for money for paying these people. So there is no clear path, there is no clear way of implementing the rationalization. The other agencies that need to be mainstream. Like the other day, I supported with all my heart when it came to the students' financing, the loan, the students' financing. That one there, we said in its current state, it is only benefiting the children of the rich. The children who go to the best schools in the country, in the primary school, they go to the best secondary schools in the country. They are the ones who score the best points, and those are the ones who are given the scholarships. Those are the ones who apply and get this money. But the poor child from Soroti, a poor child from Terego, a poor child from Kisoro does not necessarily benefit from this. So we recommended that let us this bandits take it back to the Ministry of Education, and then we go back to introduce what is called a quota system, so that we know that this is what is coming to Soroti.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable. And I think you're very clear that there's been a bit of haphazardness about this rationalization. First, it started as an omnibus bill. Then we said, oh, I think we can reduce it to go to every individual agency. And then that felt like tedious work. And then we said, let's go sector by sector.
And remember, this was a directive. It is not about that is now coming. There is a study. There's what this was a directive from the president.
Yes.
In March 2021,
That's
and they
very true.
directed the Minister of Public Service to fast track this. And then at that time, the ministry said that no, there are some legal issues we need to address. There are some agencies that they first need to settle their debts before we start implementing. So the other day, the minister appeared and asked him, now, have you sorted out the legal issues that stopped you from starting the implementation of the rationalization in 2021? The minister said he's going to come back to us. So that's the problem.
Okay.
And also you saw the problem began with the certificates of financial implication.
Let
the
me
law
hold
is
you.
very clear
Yes.
that whenever you bring any bill to parliament,
It should not
it
have.
must be accompanied with the certificate of financial implication. At that time, government came with only one omnibus, one, and placed it in parliament. So when the speaker referred the bills to the respective committees, there was no single financial certificate of financial implication that was given to any committee.
Thank
so
you.
at that
Thank you,
time,
Honorable.
all the bills were recalled. The government came to parliament and withdrew all the bills.
I want to
After
hold
1
you.
month,
We had to go back. So it's a back and forth. Richard, what are we doing with this rationalization? Because after the presidential directive, it was excitement. We said, oh, finally, the duplication is going to end. Oh, finally, we're going to save off this some money. Are we moving 3 steps forward and 5 steps backward?
No, I have said on microphone, camera, that the rationalization process is irrational. Yeah. The rationalization process did not have a rationalization rationale. Yeah, you see, if I come to my friend Blanche's compound and we have fireside conversations, and then because we have power, we go and then, you know, they force it down the throats of the people who are supposed to do it. Why did this minister not know that there were legal issues? I mean, you have very brilliant minds, legal minds in government. It tells you that this thing did not go through the government consultation. It is these alternative power centers, which are extremely powerful, by the way, where we go and have fireside conversations. We have a gourd of milk, and we decide this is now what is going to happen. By the way, our motivations are not even about saving money. We are doing power play. We are doing placements. Let me tell you, one of the things that has been difficult for us is to place our own children, but also our younger cousins, into positions of responsibility and power, because positions are already taken, and every time we do, we get attacked. Blanche here has just revealed to me that his father went to Ntare School a little earlier than I went. But the Blanches are here. We need to place them. So we have to dismantle the existing things. We say we are mainstreaming or whatever we call it, and then we can put in our generation, the generation of our children who have finished their master's programs, whom we have, and we get attacked when we try to do that. So these motivations, we also must be cognizant of them. You see, it's always okay to review what you did, and you say it has worked well or it didn't work well, and then so this is the way we go. But if the review process is not there, what Honorable Ebuaru is describing is that this review process was not processed. The review was not processed. We have these decisions, we have our other motivations, and we come to insist. So how much are we saving? Really? So who is taking the 10 trillion? The people who are taking the 10 trillion are the ones you are giving these agencies, and you say you are rationalizing.
Just information to senior. You see, I told you it is merger, mainstreaming, and winding up. Now, you are not telling us, you come to tell us, for us now, we want to remove NFA from here and put it back to the Ministry of Water. But you are not telling us that, okay, have you achieved the purpose for which you created NFA or not? And if you have not created the purpose for which you created NFA, what are the failures of NFA? You are not telling us.
That you are going to chew when you go back to the
You are simply telling us rationalization.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
Going back to you to conclude.
So it's very good. It's a very good thing for any leadership, for any government to review its delivery and say, here we have failed, this is the alternative, and we are going to save this and we are going to improve this. For me now, in the current way this thing is being done, there is no confidence. There is no, but so Branch also talked about the issue of trust. I think it was Kenneth, that even when the government is trying to do good, because it is mistrusted, yes, it is already looked at with suspicion. But the way the rationalization has been approached, the missteps that Parliament has received from the executive, I think we need to rethink. We need to rationalize, but we need to rethink and review and redo the processes.
Okay, thank you very much. Blanche, what do you make of the rationalization?
To be very brief, I think rationalization is good. These are mistakes that government made about 3 decades ago, when we are coming up with the structured adjustment programs. But as we rationalize, we need to rationalize more. We need to start with perhaps the Parliament and State House, which as per the next financial year, they end up taking more than 2 trillion Uganda shillings. That's 3.5% of our budget. That's around 7% of the tax that URA is going to collect. Why should they be taking that money? And there is no justification, as every Ugandan agrees. So we need to rationalize more, but empower people who are decentralized power. My mother is an LCC councillor somewhere in Ruhama, where I come from. She's NRM, I'm not NRM. But I'm always asking her, what are you doing? What are you doing at the sub-county?
Yeah.
There is nothing they are doing. So if you rationalize...
But they're earning money from government.
No, there is no money that they earn.
Okay.
Apart from allowance of 10,000, 20,000. Jonathan was talking about rural electrification.
Yeah.
The people at the sub-county Obro, they can do a lot of work to do with rural electrification. For you, come with engineers to put up poles and electricity line. So that will cost you much less than sending an engineer from Kampala to go and spend 1 month in the village instead of him going and spending 3 days. So these are kinds of the jobs and responsibilities that the government should be sending at the sub-county, at the parish, and give them some small incentives, give them some responsibilities, give them some small incentives, but also hold them accountable.
Just information in 10 seconds. You see the people who were disbanded, those ones who were fired from the Rural Electrification Agency. We learned as Parliament that some of them have not been paid up to now. It is now 2 to 3 years. And then here you're saying we need to rationalize. First tell us where are you going to get the money for paying these people that you're not going to absorb before you come here.
No, they will come back to you.
Finally,
they will come back to Parliament. I will answer that. Yes,
finally, as we know that this government, whenever it does something good, it does it by mistake. Yeah.
Really? Everything is not planned.
This rationalization is coming, and they are doing it in a haphazard way. But it's important. They run from those mistakes, and they pay for them. But it's better that we rationalize than waiting and saying you need ABCD.
Blanche, you're a sadist in this government. He said when government does it.
Right is my mistake.
Okay, I'll give the last chance to Kenneth about this rationalization conversation.
All right, first of all, I think my colleagues have been unfair to government. For me, the first time I learned about rationalization is when the Minister in charge of Information and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomosi, came to the media center and advised us and addressed us about cabinet decision. And I actually talked about how cabinet had sat and discussed the issue and took a decision that there would be rationalization and in 2 phases. Now, the first effort to rationalize began with an inward-looking study headed by the Minister of Public Service. And at least I had an opportunity to ask questions, to interact with the State Minister in charge of Public Service, Honorable Mary Mugasa. And in our first discussion on the show, I learned that the agencies that they had looked at before the COVID-19 pandemic came we were going to save 66 billion. Those were around 15 agencies that they looked at. And then later on, after the study had been concluded, I had an opportunity again to host her on the show. And I learned that the entire rationalization process is going to help the country to save 900 billion shillings. So that's the figure.
And that's annually in the money that we're going to the other
the monies
agencies.
that we are going to these other agencies. So that's the figure that the government is looking at to save 900 billion shillings. So for me, fairly, like Blanche said, sometimes they do the right things by mistake. For me, to give them a benefit of doubt, they have looked at some of these issues and decided that maybe this is what needs to be done. Of course, when you see some of the agencies, how they are being merged and mainstreamed, you can see there's a clear attempt of mainstreaming the duplication, removing the duplication that has been happening, because you find people doing almost the same thing. And of course, for me now, the disturbing part is that you have people who have been working in these agencies. Now they are being fired. Probably they will think about going into business. Are you giving them a package to go with? You're laying them off, but are you compensating them?
Those are the questions.
Those are the questions. Those are the issues that Parliament needs to ensure, and the ball is in your court, because you appropriate the budget. Instead of increasing your allowances and hefty budgets on trips abroad to consult on things that you never implement, you should actually think about these people who are being fired and cut your budget and allow government money to actually compensate these people to go when they are happy. Then secondly, we need to look at the political class. Rationalization should have begun with the cabinet.
Yeah.
So many MPs, so many
the
ministers.
The PSST said rationalization doesn't only need to apply to agencies, but government as whole.
Actually, when the president delayed to carry out, I know it is his prerogative, but there was a discussion about a cabinet reshuffle because of what has been happening in the past.
But he did reshuffle.
I actually thought
he slightly amended.
I actually thought. Okay, the slight amendment. I actually thought that delay was to take into account the rationalization that is going on, but it didn't happen. And also the other disturbing thing, and I want Honorable Balu to look at it closely.
Yeah.
As you're budgeting right now, are you not providing these entities budget lines, the ones that are being phased out? Because it will be funny if the particular votes you are appropriating for are actually being phased out.
No, we have not yet passed the budget.
Okay, you have not yet passed the budget, but
we are receiving the.
But you received the budget framework paper.
Yeah.
Are those agencies not catered for in the budget framework paper?
You need to first cater for them, because you have not yet removed them.
Now you see, that's another mistake.
It is total confusion from government.
Yeah. So those are the things that need to be looked at. Cabinet, very huge. Presidential advisors, presidential assistants. In other countries, when you appoint somebody to be a minister, and in fact, when you look at the oath of office that they take, one of the things they do is to say that they will be available to advise the president all the time. Which means when you are appointing somebody, there should be a knowledgeable person in that particular area. Somebody who can give you wise counsel.
That doesn't apply here.
Why can't it apply here? That's where we should be going as a country. We should have a lean government where people are appointed on merit. People are able to do things the way they are supposed to be done. The president does not need to be surrounded by so many advisors.
Okay.
You need a cabinet of tested people who are grounded in those particular areas to be able to give advice to the president. And then, of course, when we do that, the country will move forward.
I hope and wish that the cabinet, government, and whoever is concerned gets to listen to these ideas and actually implement them. Most of my panelists here are soon getting hypertension because of the pain they're expressing.
You're being unfair.
While talking about these issues. But that's the reality,
That's
because
passion.
these are pains. Yes, the passion comes with the pain, and you could easily get hypertensive. But the reality is, yes, there is a lot that we need to do. And I loved it when also, while hosting the permanent secretary and secretary to the Treasury said, look here, we're not just looking at rationalizing agencies. What we should be looking at is rationalize the entire government and save some monies, hoping that these don't just end in words, but they get to be implemented. Honorable Jonathan Ibwale, it's been a pleasure. We have to bring this to the close. Unfortunately, Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, thank you so much for always allowing to be on the other side of the microphone. Richard Baguma, it's always a pleasure having your time.
You see, the PSST is my friend.
Okay.
I don't want him to be rationalized out very quickly by this rationalization of our government talk.
And Blanche Musinguzi, thank you so much. I just want to remind you that the Through the Lens photo exhibition is happening today. And at exactly 10, we have a master class that is going to be coming through for those who are aspiring to be photojournalists telling the story through the lens. Please come and support Izano Francis. Honorable, you're coming back for...
I am here. I made a
Yes.
commitment. I'm coming here to support not only Francis, but NBS.
Yeah, exactly.
I am here. That is my area. And I'm very grateful. I'll participate.
Exactly. And of
Final
course...
Mildred,
Yes, please.
Isano is a product of Rahama County.
I know.
As the CEO of
That
Next
had to
Media
come in.
and me. So you can see the products that come from Rahama. Those are the people
Please
we
come
need
through.
we need in
for,
this
for
government.
the students, you have a beautiful,
you
beautiful
imagine?
cut-off, 20,000 shillings only, but come with your ID.
That you want
As
to
a
hammer
student, me and Kenneth will talk about the issues totally differently, but for now, thank
We
you so
have
much
oil.
for joining us. And that's all we had time for. A very good morning, and God bless you.